Greetings and salutations. I hope this video finds you doing well. This is just for some fun. We're going to take a look at some records I got today in the mail. I was going to do an unboxing, but it didn't work out. So I've already gotten these into some kind of order. I've cleaned them. I've actually played them. And now I'm going to show them to you. The unboxing thing just didn't work out. They turned out to be very well packed, and I was taking about 10 minutes to try and tear into the box. So I said, never mind, I'll just see what I got, and then I'll put the video up later. So I figured this would be a fun thing to do on the channel. It's been a long time since I posted, and we can just chat and look at records. How's that? So there's some stories in this pile. Here we go. By the way, that was from one of the sellers. Thank you. I actually keep pieces of cardboard like this because they make great dividers. Under this computer, it's a big orange foot locker made out of plastic, and that's what I keep them in because I can seal it up. It can't get wet, and humidity can't get in there and all that stuff. So anyway, the first record on the stack is kind of special. This is the Beatles, Got to Get You Into My Life on Capitol Records. This was released in the U.S. in 1976 as a new single from the Beatles. The record company wanted to see if they put a Beatles record out, would it sell? And even though this originally appeared on the album Revolver, they put it out as a new single. I mean, they promoted it, sent it to the radio stations and everything. Went to number 2 on the pop charts that year. And the flip side is Helter Skelter. And this is that 1976 original single. So, had to have me that one, boys and girls. Second one here in the pile is the Carpenters' Top of the World, a song that was released in 1973. This is actually a remix, and it became a big pop hit for the Carpenters that year. It originally appeared on an album called A Song for You, but the version you hear on that album is very different. This is a remix that was released for the radio, and it became a huge hit for them. And the flip side is a tune called Heather from an album Now and Then. And this is one of my favorite songs when I was a little kid, so bought me that. Gene Vincent and the Blue Caps. The Blue Caps do not get credit on this particular 45 for whatever reason. This was a band that was formed in the 1950s in Portsmouth, Virginia, which is where I grew up. So these guys were sort of local celebrities. Unfortunately, Gene Vincent passed away, I think, before I was born. But I knew Dickie Harrell, who played in the band, and I also was familiar with Tommy Facenda, who went on to have a hit of his own called High School USA. I met Dickie Harrell about 20 years ago at a convention, and I asked him, I said, how did you come up with those really cool drum sounds on the song Be-Bop-A-Lula? He has a stick in one hand, and he's got a brush in the other, and he's slightly behind the beat. It's beautiful. He just looked at me and said, oh, I was drunk as hell. Gene Vincent and the Blue Caps were a big influence on the Beatles. And in 1956, when this song was released, it went to number 5 on the country charts and number 8 on the pop charts. I think I've got that right. If I've got it wrong, put it in the comments and correct me, but that's what I remember. The flip side is a tune called Lotta Love, and this is a 70s reissue of Be-Bop-A-Lula, and it's in really good shape, so pick that one up. Okay, there's another story behind this record. I've been talking with a friend of mine about WTAR radio in Norfolk. He went on to program WNBC in New York. If you're a radio person, you might recognize his name, Dale Parsons. Well, he is from the Hampton Roads area, and he was the program director at WTAR in Norfolk when I was a kid just starting high school, man, trying to get into radio. And then Dale up and leaves, and the next thing we know, he's in New York, and he's in the big time. So anyway, we've been talking a lot about that, and one of the guys that worked at WTAR in Norfolk was Tom Looney, and one of my favorite disc jockeys of all time. I was listening to a tape of Tom from 1978 because I had pulled all that stuff out when me and Dale were talking, and Dale, or rather Tom, don't mean to confuse you here, on this recording from 1978 started playing Town Without Pity. And then he played it for about 5 seconds, and then he said, turns on the mic and says, "Oop, that's not what I wanted to play. Let me take that right off of there." And the next song that he plays is, what is the name of this record? "I Wanna Love My Life Away." Well, being that it was 1978, and this was before CDs and whatnot, I knew Tom was playing this particular record right here. Back in those days, if a radio station wanted to have a record in their library, they would most likely order it from a record service. And so I went ahead and bought this just so I could have the record. See, some people collect records for strange reasons. Mine is because it's a connection to my youth when I was starting in radio and we were still playing records. There were tons of these around, and the radio stations are gone, and the people are gone, and everything else is gone, but I can still get the records. So, there you go. Story behind that one. Scandal, Warrior. This song is from 1984. This was a huge hit, and this is definitely the original single. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this on a phone, but I'm going to pull it out anyway. You can just barely make out, maybe, let me get up here real close and hold it still, that it says, "I am the warrior" there. And that was written in what they call the dead wax. This is the area between the modulation and where the run-out groove takes off. And they usually just put things like numbers there so that the record company will be able to keep up with what master that is and all that stuff when they're making the stuff to press them. Well, occasionally they'll put something interesting in there. So it says, "I am the warrior" on the first side, and you flip it over, and it says, "You may never get another one." I don't know why, but that's in there. This is Lenny Welch, "Since I Fell for You," a song that was a hit in the early 60s. I forget the year. And this song became big in the 80s again because it was used in the television show Moonlighting. Can you get it in the center there? Thank you. Getting a cramp in my foot because I'm all huddled up next to this here tripod. So this is the reissue on Columbia Hall of Fame. You could pick these up in record stores, or like I said, the record services for radio stations would very often send these records when they ordered them. So there were just tons of them around. So I had to have that one as well. And finally, in the new category here, we have the Zombies. And this is "Tell Her No." And the flip side, no, this is "She's Not There." And you may hear a cat meow in the background, folks. My cat Stinky has decided that now is the time he wants to go out. So he's howling to go out. And I'm not going to let you out right now, Mr. Stink. So if you hear him, that's what that is. So this is another one of those radio reissues. I put that down too quick. And this is actually very nice. These are very tasty stereo mixes of these songs from the 1980s. And I picked those up from a eBay seller who was selling everything as new old stock, and I ordered a whole bunch of stuff, and guess what? It wasn't all new old stock, which kind of ticks me off a little bit. I was going to recommend that guy, and then when I started getting into the records, I was like, hey, wait a minute, I paid a lot of money for this, and a couple of them were damaged. What happens, in case you don't know, is that if a record is played in a jukebox a whole lot, then what'll happen is that it will be damaged, but you can't see it by looking at it. So let's look at some stuff, some picture sleeve records I've got here. A couple from Phil Collins, "I Wish It Would Rain Down," and then "Don't Lose My Number." The flip side of "Don't Lose My Number" was the extra song that did not go on to the LP of No Jacket Required, but ended up on the CD. It's one of the reasons I had wanted to have that record. and I wish it would rain down on picture sleeves. I guess I was gonna do all the Phil Collins stuff together, but things have gotten slightly out of order because I have a ton of Phil Collins. Cousin Phil, I call him. Now, this is not in a proper sleeve, one of those polypropylene sleeves. Don't get mad at me, okay, record collectors out there, because this is the way it came. This is Johnny Stanley, and it's a tune called It's in the Book, which was a hit in the early 1950s. We had a local disc jockey around here who used to quote this a lot on the air. He'd say, "Let's live it up. It's not raining inside tonight." Well, guess what? I say that on the air now, too. The guy's name was Roger Clark. So this is one that I wanted to have pretty close to original copy of. I'm not really sure if this is an original because it's actually an EP. The second side has a couple of comedy bits on it, but something interesting there. Okay, Gloria Estefan. And this is, Bet You Say That. This came in a batch of Gloria Estefan records, and we will look at the others shortly. Eric Carmen, who just recently passed away. Make Me Lose Control. There's actually 2 copies here. I had originally gotten one that was not a picture sleeve, and then later I picked up a picture sleeve. Belinda Carlisle. There's 2 picture sleeve records in here. Let me go ahead and get the other one and knock the camera while I'm doing that. So we have Circle in the Sand back there, and this is Heaven is a Place on Earth. You hear Stinky? You hear him? He wants to go out. He's going to start knocking stuff over in a little while because I'm ignoring him, and he doesn't like that. I love Belinda Carlisle. I had a crush on her in the 80s when she was with the Go-Go's. So how could I say no to that? Here's another one of my favorite songs from the 80s. By the way, all these picture sleeves are 80s. And this is Cheap Trick, The Flame, from the summer of 1988. That was a #1 record. Here's another one from, what was this? I'm trying to remember whether it was late 88 or early 89. I think it was late 88. This is Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Young. And they got together to do an album because I guess somebody needed some money. It's usually how that works. And they did a song called American Dream, which was a mild radio hit at best. The album did better than the single. Neil Diamond from the album The Jazz Singer. This is America. 1980. Terrible movie, but a great album. And Some Guys Have All the Luck. This is Rod Stewart from 1984. Couple from Rick Springfield here. The lead single is Jesse's Girl. Hello? Yeah, I know. And this is when he was acting on the soap opera General Hospital. And so therefore, that's why he is identified as Dr. Noah Drake from General Hospital. And then also here his follow-up single. This is I've Done Everything for You. Both these tunes come from the album Working Class Dog. I love that album. Axel F. Harold Faltermeyer. That's the Eddie Murphy movie. What movie was it? I can't remember the movie. Let's see. Music from the motion picture soundtrack Beverly Hills Cop. I had to go read that, so I would remember the movie and not get it wrong. I like that. It's kind of electronic music. John Fogerty, Old Man Down the Road. John Fogerty got sued when he released this song because former members of Creedence Clearwater Revival said that he was ripping off his own sound. The judge threw it out and said that was crazy. So apparently there was some legal issues about that. I mean, could you imagine you just perform your own stuff and you're breaking copyright? It's crazy. Elvis Presley, Little Sister. Marie's the Name. This is probably the best Elvis single there is, in my opinion. And so I have it on the original 45, and it's a picture sleeve from 1962 or 63. Okay, now we're into the really good records from Gloria Estefan. We have Bad Boy, if you'll remember that one. One of my favorites from her, I Can't Stay Away From You. 2 copies. We have the picture sleeve version, and then we have the original radio promo. And one of the reasons that there are 2 records here is because the one with the picture sleeve has a little bit of damage. Sheena Easton, I Only Have Eyes for You, from the movie, James Bond movie. We have 2 copies of this. This is the American release, and this is the British release, right, in this folder. Let me see if I can get this out. So this is the original EMI British version, and then we have the American version. Another from Sheena Easton. This is Modern Girl, one of my favorite tunes from her. The Lucky One, Laura Branigan, from 1984, and also from 1984, yes, Owner of a Lonely Heart, from that year as well. This is Sunglasses at Night from Corey Hart. 2 copies of that record. There's a stock copy, and then there's the picture sleeve. Naked Eyes. This is from 1983. There are 2 copies here. One of them is the original British single, and then we have the American single, and they are slightly different. The British single actually sounds a little slower, and it's slightly different. And when they released it over here, they sped it up just a tiny bit. And more of the Phil Collins collection. I Missed Again, and then I Don't Care Anymore. And then we have Against All Odds, terrible movie, great song. What was Against All Odds. And finally, in the stack, it is none other than Denise Williams. What an incredible voice. And this is from the movie Footloose. And it is, Let's Hear It for the Boy. What was that, 83? 82, 83, something like that. So yeah, boys and girls, a stack of fun there I shared with you. Some people like these kind of videos. Want to, before I leave, tell you a little bit about Easy Linux. It went away. I took the web page down, so that marks 10 years of Easy Linux, and it's all gone now. And if anybody would like to have a retrospective video where I talk about 10 years of helping people with Linux, I would be glad to post that for you. Right now, I want to take you off the tripod, and in the remaining couple of moments we have on the video, I want to kind of show you what I'm playing these records on. This is a dual 618Q, and it has a very lovely Audio-Technica VM510 CB cartridge. That is a conical stylus, which is appropriate for 45s, especially polystyrene 45s. I've done a lot of videos about this turntable and this whole setup in here. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, just go look at the channel and look at the videos that have been posted. One thing I do have to say about collecting records is that if you're going to do this, be prepared to spend some money and clean everything that you buy, because some things are being sold as new that are not. So there you go. There's another thing full here, and I'll be putting these back. Actually, I'm going to be playing records for a while and kind of chilling. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We will do it again soon.